Hello, everyone. This is Brian Lockmiller, back again with another episode of Brief Thoughts. I want to thank you if you've been watching these in the past and if you're watching this today. I pray that something is said here today that will encourage you as a child of God to greater and faithful living so that one day you will stand before your Creator and hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." If you've never obeyed the gospel, I hope and pray also that there's something here that will increase your curiosity of biblical things and that you will have questions or a desire later on in life to be obedient to that gospel, to the salvation of your soul. I will thank you. Today's brief thought is remember who you are and whose you are. Now, if you've been watching any of the brief thought videos, you might say, that sounds real familiar. Well, if it sounds familiar, it's because at the end of every brief thought video, and I'll repeat it again today, I say, remember who you are and whose you are. Well, that's not just some quaint little saying. Even though Cindy and I have been using it for years, we tell this to our children, even though they're adults now, we still say it to them, remember who you are and whose you are, because we want them to remember who they're supposed to be a part of. Continue to remember that you, if you claim to be a child of God, are a Christian. But as I said, this isn't just something that we've made up. I believe that there's a biblical basis for saying this, and it comes from the Apostle Paul in 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 19, where he's writing to a young preacher, encouraging him to overcome certain things in life, the disrespect people are going to be giving him, the fact that there are going to be arguments about things in life. But what he says in the middle of all of these, beginning in verse 14 through the end of the chapter, he says this, nevertheless, the solid foundation of God stands. Having this seal, the Lord knows those who are his, and let everyone who names the name of Christ depart from iniquity. Now, I want you to consider for just a moment that what he's saying there, how important it is. Because part of biblical transformation is leaving the bad things that we have done in the past behind and departing from them, as he says right here. It is departing from what Paul says is iniquity. And so we do that thing. The very thing that can separate man from God, Paul's saying, flee from it. Leave it behind. Get as far away from it as you possibly can. And so, once we do that, then we must live faithfully to God. We must walk in fellowship with God to have this seal of recognition that we are God's people. Once we are recognized as God's people, there's also a faithfulness that needs to come about from it that will have an effect on how we influence others. So how important is it to us to remember the power of our influence? Well, there's a song in some songbooks out there that uses words like, we are the world's only Bible. Well, what does that mean? It means sometimes they will never open up scriptures, but what they're doing is they're watching you, they're watching me, and they're determining whether or not we are the type of people we proclaim to be. And if we are, can they tell that we truly are Christians by our conduct? Now, every day people are looking at us, whether it be at work, whether you're a student at school, even at home. Children are looking at parents. Neighbors are watching their neighbors. They are observing your conduct. Even on social media, people will look at the things that you post and whether or not they represent what a true child of God should be saying. And it will have an influence. If you post things that seem to be argumentative all of the time, if you post things, for instance, there are a lot of people out there that like to post things that are conspiracy theories. And it doesn't matter what the topic is. There are contrarians out there all the time. But if you as a child of God, if that is all that you're posting on your social media accounts, I want you to take into consideration, What are people going to think when you start talking about scriptures? How is that going to influence people? Our conduct, the words that we use, will influence others, and they will make a determination, whether it's right or wrong. They will make a determination of whether or not we really are who we claim to be. Now, I'm saying all this to express this, that just saying I am a Christian does not make you his. We can make all the claims that we want, but what we need to do is we need to be understanding that we should be following the will of the Father in everything that we do. In Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 through 23, I think Jesus makes this very clear at the end of his Sermon on the Mount when he says, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, 'Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name?' And then I will declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness.'" When Paul told Timothy to depart from iniquity, he was telling him not to practice lawlessness. And there are going to be those in the world today who claim to be children of God, and at the same time, because of the error of their thinking, the error of their ways, they will be told in that last day, "Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness." The last thing I want anyone, including myself, to ever hear from my Lord is, "I never knew you." You see, our days should be filled with the expectation and the encouragement and the hope that when we stand before God in judgment, he will say to us, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into my rest." Because the last thing we ever want to hear is the words "depart." So, if you are going to submit to the Lord's will and you are going to live faithfully, guess what? He is going to know that you are his. Are you looking for the path that leads to eternal life? We are ready to assist you in your quest. We encourage you to come and join us as we, in our quest, follow Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life. The information on the screen right now tells you how you can contact us by phone. We have a website that you can look at as well. But the members of Park Hill Church of Christ would love the opportunity to sit down and open our Bibles with you if you've never obeyed the gospel before, and show you who Jesus Christ is. Truly, he is the way, the truth, and the life, because no man can come to the Father except through him. Thank you for watching this video. It will be made public on my Facebook page. And as always, I want you to stay safe, stay healthy, but most of all, remember who you are and whose you are.